Hey guys, welcome to Bonnie's World. This is a wrestling video inspired by a headline I saw when I was making the genealogy video. A reporter asked a wrestler's son whether he was going to wrestle, whether he wanted to wrestle. And we've talked a little bit about this stuff before, but I wanted to give you sort of a list of wrestlers' sons that I know of and tell you what I think well, their sons and daughters, really, what I think of their chances of deciding to wrestle. Just in my opinion. And of some that I know are planning to wrestle. Now, first of all, the wrestler in question in this particular case was Chris Jericho. It was his son Ash. Ash wants to do his own thing. He does not want to wrestle. So my grandpa played hockey, my dad wrestled. I want to do my own thing. Great. I'm not surprised by that. First of all, Chris has always said that he wanted his kids to do their own thing. If that meant wrestle, fine. If that didn't, whatever. That didn't bother Chris, because he's been asked about it since his son was a toddler. He's 19 years old now. So, but he loves fishing. He loves learning about fish. So maybe he'll do something in that vein. Maybe one of the twins will wrestle. Who knows? The funny thing is, I happen to know that Ash is a type 1 diabetic. So wrestling probably wouldn't be in the cards for him anyway. That being said, let's move on to another potential. I think in about 10 years, we will be seeing Frankie Kazarian's son in the ring. I really do. Both of his parents are wrestlers, first of all. Second, great wrestlers, by the way. And I know how much he looks up to both of them and adores both of them. So I do think that it would not surprise me one little bit if we see Rebel in the ring. And who knows, 10 years, he could potentially tag team with his father, In 10 years, his father will be 55. Wow. But think about it. Christopher Daniels is still wrestling at almost 53 years old, so, and wrestling at the highest level, so. It hasn't lost a step. Speaking of Christopher Daniels, both of his kids are basically grown now. His daughter's 19. Wow. And his son is 17. I don't think, for some reason, I just don't think that his son will wrestle. I think there's a good possibility his daughter might. I know that sounds really odd, but let me try to explain this. His daughter is in the performing arts, dance, theater, all that stuff, which she gets from both of her parents. Dance, theater, music. She gets that from both of her parents. Um, and she might take the step that her father did, take the next step, and go into the ring as a form of theater. So, um, so it wouldn't surprise me. It might surprise him, but it wouldn't surprise me. Uh, like I said, I don't know about his son because his son is, you don't hear as much about his son, you know? His daughter's always gone places with him, gone to Comic Cons and done different things with him, and you'll see her holding a microphone, and she's much more, I think she's much more of a daddy's girl. Um, and that too would play a role in it. So, but she's been much more out there than has Joshua. So I just think that it's much more possible that Jericho might do it. Again, strictly my opinions. Chris, you can nail me on Twitter if you want to. I'm okay with that. They're strictly my opinions. Um, and then I could be all wet and Joshua could be wrestling in a couple of years, you know? I mean, you never know. Because I know none of these people personally. I just have to go by what I see. Trying to think. We know Triple H and Stephanie's oldest daughter, Aurora, is already training at the training center. She's a teenager. The Rock's daughter is training. She's grown. Um, Trying to think. Hogan's daughter was involved in the business, although she never actually wrestled. Um, Again, it was about promoting herself, promoting her music, promoting her, that kind of thing. So, um, and Hogan's son's not going to wrestle. Aside from the fact that he's already 30 years old and has never stepped into the ring. Yeah, not going to happen. um, who else? I can easily see in 4 years or so, AJ Styles' oldest son in the ring by his side without any question of a doubt. Looking just as good as his dad, because I'm sure that, um, the elite athlete that he already is trains hard and trains hard side by side with his dad. So, and AJ still looks, no pun intended, phenomenal. From a physique standpoint and from an in-ring, purely wrestling standpoint, at 45 years old, AJ is still the man. Sorry, Becky. So I can easily see that. Trying to think. So I can easily see young AJ with AJ. Young AJ is, holy Moses, he's 17. Wow. So that means he'll be 18 in May. That is insane. He's in his senior year of high school. So he'll turn 18 right around the time he graduates. Well, a couple of weeks before. Because his birthday is May 5th. That is insane to me to think his child has grown. He is. Which means Avery will be 16. LB will be 14. And Annie will be 9. Holy Moses. He has 3 teenage boys. 3 teenage boys. Yikes. Anyway, I don't know about the other 2, but I know that young AJ is an elite athlete. Like, in baseball. He was in football as well, but I think he's primarily in baseball now. Or maybe it's just the season. I don't know. But I think football season's already started. Baseball season's over. So, I don't know. He seems to be primarily baseball now. So, yeah. I say 4 years because AJ wants him to go to college before he'll train him. So that'll be interesting. He already has the flying ability. If you've ever watched him on the trampoline, I can see it, you know? I can't wait to see it, actually. I do know that these kids have a tough act to follow, you know, and anyone who's been second generation or third will tell you that it can be tough. Very rarely do they surpass their parent. The Rock certainly did. Neither of Roddy Piper's kids that have chosen to get into the business have come to anywhere near where he is. I wish AEW would grab them both up, but we'll see what happens. My understanding is that Ari's pretty tough. That she's, like I said, pretty tough. And Colt, we know what Colt can do. So I just think that they need opportunity. And I would love to see, now Triple H might try to sign him, but I'd rather see him in AEW. I think they would get further and they would be more recognized for who they are. That being said, I noticed the World Wrestling Federation back in the day, because I watched that at 1991 show and I've watched some other shows, they did not really acknowledge second generation wrestlers. Never mentioned that the Rougeaus were second generation wrestlers, despite the fact that Jacques Rougeau is Jacques Rougeau Jr. And their father was a wrestler and a promoter in French Canada. The only reason why Greg Valentine's father got a mention was because Roddy Piper mentioned Johnny Valentine. Not by name, he just said, they were talking about how tough Valentine was because he was in the Rumble for a really long time. And Roddy said in passing, yeah, so was his dad. They became great friends because Roddy knew Greg's dad when Greg's dad wrestled. They had worked together and shared a locker room, and that's how him and Bob Orton became friends, because of Bob Sr. Again, another thing they never mentioned, I couldn't help but notice that they chose not to mention any of that. I mean, Dusty and Dustin, they didn't have a choice. They were teaming together. But otherwise, they never mentioned, now they're all about the second and third generation superstars. It's like, okay, it took you 30 years to get there. You mentioned who Randy Orton's father and grandfather were, but when his father wrestled, you never mentioned who his father was. You know, so to me, that needed to be corrected. I can see if your character, like in the case of Bray Wyatt, his character doesn't use the name. So it would be understandable. But they have mentioned that he was a second generation wrestler. They just didn't mention who his father was. Actually, that he's a third generation wrestler. They just never mentioned who his father and his grandfather happened to be. But so yeah. Because his grandfather on, well, his mother's father and his father, both wrestlers, and his uncles. And of course, his brother, Bo Dallas. I'm not sure they ever mentioned he was third generation either, but yeah, I think that needs to be mentioned. I mean, for crying out loud, they didn't used to mention it at all. And now they've mentioned that Carmella's father was a wrestler. Best I can tell, Carmella's father was a jobber. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're going to mention that, why the hell would you not mention a tag team that was at the first WrestleMania that happened to be the father and uncle of Bray Wyatt? You know? No offense meant here, but nobody's heard of Carmella's father. Like I said, I don't mean any offense by that. You know, he just happens to be one of those guys that was used as enhancement for whatever reason. He could have been a great wrestler, you know? Some enhancement guys are actually pretty damn good wrestlers. They just never give them the chance to perform. So I'm not in any way insulting the man. I'm just saying that if they acknowledge that, they should acknowledge guys who made it further up the card, shall we say. That's just my opinion. And like I said, I think that we have some wrestlers coming up. I really do. That's the beauty of the business. You always have new blood coming up. I don't know if it would be interesting if one of Lance Storm's kids decides to wrestle. I think they're in their early 20s now. And it would be interesting because, again, you don't get any better than Lance Storm. So, and I have to be honest with you, if I was sending my kid to a wrestling school, I would send him to Lance Storm's school. So, and they never acknowledged that Barry O and Bob Orton were brothers. Ever. Trying to think of other unacknowledged relationships. There are a lot of them. Rockin' Robin and Jake Roberts. And WWE never acknowledged that Jake Roberts was a second generation wrestler, but that could have been because Jake didn't want to associate himself with his father. So that could have been his choice. You know, we don't know. Speaking of second generation, Dominic Mysterio, I don't know what to make of him. I would like to see him just have a plain old match. Because so far I'm not seeing a whole lot. And I don't like it when second generation guys come in, like David Flair. I think he felt like he was supposed to. And he was awful. And he would probably tell you that. I mean, it's my opinion, but my opinion also says he would probably tell you how very bad he was, especially in the beginning. Whereas Reed would have been phenomenal. And unfortunately, he went in another direction. So, yeah. Charlotte is. She's amazing. And more second generation females are getting in the business, which is kind of cool. Trying to think. Of who else might wrestle. I'm not sure. But I wanted to share my opinions with you. Maybe get yours in the comments. Please, it helps the channel. Hit like, hit subscribe. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. I was trying to think of any more wrestlers I know of that have kids that are at the age. I am surprised that Ricky Steamboat's son, who did end up wrestling, hasn't gotten more attention or success. You know, hasn't been signed by a big company, given that he's Ricky's son. And they say he's really good. I know that David Benoit is trying desperately. I know he's working with Chris Jericho. So hopefully he will get somewhere with it as well. Tessa Blanchard. I think that also either one of Magnum TA's children could wrestle. That wouldn't surprise me. It's going to be about 30 years. No, maybe not that long. They're older than that now. But anyway, Tessa's fabulous. So yeah. Like I said, the opinions expressed herein are mine. I do think, like I said, there should have been more acknowledgement back in the day, and I did want to mention that after watching that Royal Rumble 91 and realizing that there was very little in the way of acknowledgement. Excuse me. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. This is going to be our last video of the day. I will see you tomorrow at the Christmas party and our Get Ready With Me video. Have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless you. Bye-bye.